Thanks for being with us, Danny Parkins, Andrew Fillipponi, First and Pod. You know the drill. Subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Prove that you have given us a 5-star review or tell a friend, and we will give you a coveted retweet on Elon Musk's X. What's up, Pony?
Danny, early happy Father's Day. Shout out to you.
You as well.
I don't know if you guys have big plans. Are you golfing this
I
weekend? You are?
I am.
At the backyard course or at another course with the fellas?
At this a special round. I've got one friend who belongs to a country club, and he's invited us to a fancy course. So playing a fancy Father's Day round.
See, I need guidance on this. I just felt like it was inappropriate, it being the first one with my daughter, to ask for something that was like selfish.
Time away.
Yes, I want to do something away from you guys. So, yeah, I did not go that route.
So, yeah, you'll get there. But what's cool is, like, I genuinely am looking forward to the time when I will be able to play golf with my sons on Father's Day. And so, but this year, Steph, for Mother's Day, wanted to do like the spa morning thing. Like, so it's like time away. And so she did that. But what's ironic is that, like, if that becomes a Mother's Day tradition, I will probably then just golf on Mother's Day and Father's Day, and I'll have the boys on both. Yeah. But no, looking forward. Gonna do breakfast with the fam, golf, then an afternoon swim. Should be a lovely day. Lovely day. Do you want to know how Spencer has contributed to today's podcast, our intrepid producer, or do you want to have it happen as it goes? Because I think it's funny.
I want to have it happen organically. The theme of today's podcast is minicamp storylines for each division. So we are keeping the 32 teams in play, every team, every game, every week. But it's instead of doing top storyline for all 32 teams, we're either doing one big picture for each division at minicamp or a big story within the division that rival teams would be interested in hearing about. So that's what we're doing.
That's correct.
And you were in charge of the NFC as per usual, and I was given the AFC division. So we both had 4 topics to come up with. But you only came up with 2 because you said you had a bunch going on this week.
I was busy, and so I asked Spencer to do the NFC West and NFC South for me. And so we can just begin with Spencer Ray, our producer's NFC West question. Will it be a competitive division this season?
Getting right to the heart of the matter here. Will it be a competitive division?
Which I was like, thank you for your contribution, Spencer. But I did look at it. You would have thought that San Francisco, at least I would have thought, was the heaviest favorite to win a division of any team in the NFL.
Why would you pick that? You've already gone on record as saying Matthew Stafford will win the MVP award this year, and MVPs come from teams that have the best or second best record in football.
I said that 25-1 was good value for Matt Stafford, is what I said. And so I bet it. But
to lose.
Yeah, well, you know me, man. Value losers. But the Chiefs are far and away the heaviest favorite of any team to win the division. Chiefs minus 230, Chargers plus 350 is the second closest favorite. The Rams are a similar second favorite at plus 330, but the Niners a meager minus 195. Marvin Harrison reports at minicamp are strong. Health of Stafford in LA and early reports of new secondary for the Rams are positive, but this continues to be the Niners division because if they don't trade anyone away, it could actually be the best version of the Niners offense that we've seen in this run. Because one year when they made a deep run, they acquired McCaffrey mid-season. Other years they've had guys be injured at times. But if they go into this year with first-round pick, the Pearsall kid as a wide receiver, and Ayuk, and Debo, and Kittle, and full year of McCaffrey, with obviously Purdy still on the rookie deal. It could be the best Niners offense we've seen in the last 5 years, which is a pretty high bar to clear.
So I think there are two concerns about the teams at the top, which make Spencer's question. I see no issue with it. I like it because I've said in previous podcasts, I think if Seattle and Arizona were coached by McVay and Shanahan, we would flip the way we predict the standings here, that the coaches of both teams mean that much to their respective franchises, Stafford and Shanahan. And I think that Seattle and Arizona have closed the gap a little bit. In Arizona's case, I think significantly from where they were last year relative to the two teams who made the playoffs in the division. The concerns are the Stafford contract thing was not on my bingo card of off-season potential drama-filled situations. I did not. Like them saying the reports coming out of LA that they're not sure he's going to show up for training camp. He's at mini camp, but they're trying to navigate their way through that. It's not a situation like it would be with Tua or Dak because of his age, but it's still like, how much do you pay this guy? Does he really want to be paid like a top of the market quarterback? He's been paid like a top of the market quarterback 3 times. He didn't have the rookie contract cap when he came in. He got paid like a top quarterback from day one. So I am confused by that. I actually think that it's possible when it's all said and done that Detroit gets the better of the trade. They haven't won the Super Bowl yet, and LA has. But if it's 2 more years of Stafford or 3 more years, who knows? And Detroit has another 7, 8, 9 years with Goff.
Well, they'll need to
win the Super Bowl there.
They'll need he need to win a ring for that to even be an argument. But it's one of the true win-win trades in recent NFL history.
And then San Francisco, the Ayuk thing, I don't think is just water under the bridge. I think of the wide receiver situations, I think it's more contentious than Dallas with CeeDee Lamb, and I think it's probably worse than what's going on in Cincinnati because he's watched other guys get paid there. McCaffrey just got a contract. Bosa last year. They use a first-round pick on a wide receiver. They're grooming his replacement. They paid Jawan Jennings more than most teams pay number 3 wide receivers. So it's just been disrespectful move after disrespectful move as far as how San Francisco values him and feels like his importance to their winning in the grand scheme of things. I think they want to use him and then burn him after this year. I think they want to just have him for this year and then move on, but he doesn't want to play for $14 million, Danny. So I think that still rears its ugly head at some point between now and the start of the season.
Well, and how much contract stuff actually will matter in terms of wins and losses and will come up for sure throughout the course of this podcast, I think, because that's a lot of the storylines at this point of the NFL season. What's your first division?
AFC East, the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, the man who went on record as saying we need to cut out all the crap and the bleep storm that is the New York Jets and just minimize all the things that are not football related and close all the leaks and shut them off and make it all about the right goal, which is to finally win here. And then he leaves for a vacation when it's mandatory minicamp.
It's an objectively terrible look.
Yes. I'm just stunned by the number of people, both in New York and outside of New York, that are bending themselves backwards and twisting themselves in knots to try to defend it.
Yeah, listen, here's why. Like I actually know why that's happening. Because if Matt Stafford missed mandatory minicamp, or if Patrick Mahomes missed mandatory minicamp, or if Justin Herbert missed mandatory minicamp, we would be like, oh, that's noteworthy, but it'll be fine. And if Aaron Rodgers was normal and missed mandatory minicamp, we'd be like, oh, not ideal, but it's fine. But when he's played 2 minutes total with the Jets, and he said, I'm going to make the main thing the main thing. Once it's time for football, it's time for football. And now there's this other thing, and they don't announce it as excused, and they don't tell us what it is. It's going to just lead to headlines and speculation. It was just handled poorly top to bottom, and we can't treat him like a normal quarterback because he's not acting like a normal quarterback. So if this would be a 2 out of 10, if it happened to another top 10 or 12 quarterback in the NFL, of course we're going to treat this like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 as a story, because Aaron Rodgers is not behaving rationally or normally in any other facet of his life.
I think it's more than a 6 or 7 out of 10. I think it's more like an 8 or 9. And it honestly makes me rethink some of the lofty predictions I have for the Jets this year, because it speaks to his hypocrisy. I've been someone.
Were you surprised at how Salah handled it?
He did a 180 on it because Aaron Rodgers runs the organization. The first day he was talking about how it wasn't excused. And then the next day he was talking about how he's on the same page with Aaron Rodgers. So which one is it? He should have, if it did not catch them off guard and it wasn't something the Jets were upset by, the second it happens, he should have just put out the fire then and said it's no big deal. But he didn't.
Correct. That's my point. Like it was shocking to me that he flatly said it's not excused. It must be known in that building that why he's not there.
Well, it's a vacation. It's a trip.
To where, for what, and why now?
Well, I guess he scheduled this when he was in his rehab, and he picked this week to go on this vacation, and he didn't want to break it. He didn't want to change it. He'll probably come out and say it was some kind of spiritual journey or some kind of mental health retreat that was necessary, and that's why he prioritized that over being with his teammates and being at practice. And he'll try to sell it as something that will actually help him get ready for the season, which isn't until September. It reminded me of the way Salah seemed caught off guard by it and perturbed by it. And then the following day, it was everything's copacetic. It's kumbaya. It reminded me of the Bills with Stephon Diggs when McDermott talked about why he wasn't there, why he left, and seemed like he was pissed off about it. And then the next day came out and said, actually, there's nothing to see here. And now Diggs is talking in Houston about how there was plenty to see there and that there was all kinds of tension and conflict, and he's happy to be past that. So I think I think Salah showed his true colors right off the bat. Danny,
I can't give you 9 out of 10. I can't give you 9 out of 10 because it's June. I can't do it.
Well, but hold on. I saw this with Roethlisberger. I saw this with Ben late in his career, where you could just tell that Mike Tomlin in the front office and even some veterans on defense were like, we put up with this when he was throwing 38 touchdowns a season and we were going to the AFC Championship game. Now he's 38 years old. He's dinking and dunking. He doesn't move like he used to. He's not a top 5 quarterback anymore, but he's still acting that way. He's still looking at his career resume and he's thinking, because of all I've accomplished, it's allowing for, and you're going to abet this kind of behavior. Rodgers might still be that guy, but he didn't play last year.
No, I know, and he's still
conducting himself like he can take advantage of and get away with whatever he wants. And I guess the Jets are, based on what they said afterwards, tolerating that and putting up with that. But my bet on the Jets was based on he had motive to prove and show everyone that he didn't deserve to get kicked to the curb by the Packers, and he was driven to win in New York. I no longer believe that with him. I don't think that the fire burns in him like it did Brady going to Tampa Bay, like I'm going to prove Belichick wrong and New England wrong, and I'm still a great quarterback. I think the guy's got too many other things going on in his life to feel that way about football. Sorry.
You don't have to apologize to me. Here it comes, Pony. The 2-part punchline with the 6 minutes in between. I asked Spencer Ray to help me with the NFC West and the NFC South. NFC West question, will it be a competitive division this season? NFC South question. Spencer Ray notes that every team in the division has a new offensive coordinator this year. Is the division more wide open than we think?
Well, how wide open do we think it is? And then we can, after hearing that offensive coordinator stat, reconsider our original position on it.
It just, oh God, that slayed me.
Well, here, okay, I
love you, Spence. You're the best.
I got to defend my guy Spencer again.
He's the best.
It is interesting that the Falcons have pretty much been crowned NFC South champion already,
including by me.
Yes. So you go. I mean, they haven't won a damn thing yet. They've got a quarterback that's almost 40 who's coming off a major foot injury, an Achilles injury, and it just seems like ipso facto, he goes in there and he's going to make them significantly better, and they're going to go from 7-10 to 10-7 without much work, without working up a sweat this year.
Well, that doesn't seem unreasonable given how poorly they were coached last year and how poorly their quarterback performance was. And yeah, the Achilles is a massive question for a quarterback of his age, but the timeline is totally reasonable. And it's not like he was a quarterback dependent on his athleticism. Like, it's totally reasonable to say that Kirk Cousins will come back and be better than Desmond Ridder. You believe that, right?
Yes, I do.
And it's also totally reasonable. I mean, Raheem Morris came out at this minicamp and said, and asked, what's your plan for Bijan Robinson? Said to get him the ball a lot. That's not what they did last year and in the old system. So if the only changes to Atlanta are improved quarterback play and increased workload and target share for their best players, who are Bijan Robinson and Drake London, and we hope Kyle Pitts, but he's never really proven it, but we know Drake London is good, and we know Bijan Robinson is good, and we think Kyle Pitts is good, and Darnell Mooney and Rondell Moore should at least be upgrades as wide receiver depth, if not stars. Their offense should be considerably better than it was, and the division is good. Like, no team in the NFC South upgraded more than the Atlanta Falcons. You would agree with that? Going from Ridder to
because they went from bottom 5 quarterback to potentially
top 12.
Top 15 quarterback who every year, as long as he stays healthy, throws 30 touchdowns a season.
Right. Yeah. Well, so to me, I know I said that they were like my Lions bet of last year, where I locked them in for the division as a small minus money favorite. The only difference is that Detroit 2 years ago finished the season really strong, so you could see them coming. Atlanta was, inconsistent all year. So that's the only difference. But I do think that there is a considerable gap between the Falcons and the other teams. Or even if you disagree with that, there are more question marks with the other teams than there are Atlanta.
Well, yeah, because New Orleans was top 15 in offense and top 15 in defense last year. They were above average on both sides of the ball, but I don't really trust their quarterback anymore, Derek Carr. They're running back Kamara's a year older and right. I think they have one of the worst head coaches in the entire league. I think that Baker Mayfield is bound or due for regression. Right. I don't think he's going to be as good this year as he was last year. And there is a new coordinator there who is now the old coordinators in Carolina. And I'm going to say this again. I think the Panthers are a sneaky team this season because of what you just said about Atlanta. This team had maybe with the Steelers and with Atlanta and maybe one or two other teams, like bottom 5 quarterback production. If Bryce Young with better weapons, Leggett, Johnson, Thielen back, Jonathan Brooks comes in, offensive line is better. They bring Hunt in from Miami at guard. If they're better offensively, it's not going to take much. It's not going to take much for them to go from like 3 wins, 4 wins to 7 or 8. So I didn't like Young out of college, but I didn't think he would be as bad as he was last year. And I am not willing to just rule him out or say for certain that he's not going to be a good quarterback. But you're smiling. Did I say something bad?
No. You didn't say anything bad. You didn't say anything bad.
Right.
I love you can craft a great argument.
All right, next.
Don't be mad at me.
I'm not. There's no malice here, anger. All right, AFC North, my division. Mike Tomlin gets a contract extension, 3-year extension, and then the Bengals, more contract extension talk there. It's not just T. Higgins who wants a new deal.
Yeah, right.
It's also Jamar Chase now. So they've got 2 wide receivers who are unhappy with their situation. Let's start with Tomlin. It just shows you how much they've watered down expectations. He has not won a playoff game in 7 years. He's 0-5 in his last 5 playoff games. The only head coaches in the last 40 years to have 7 straight years without a playoff win and 0-5 in the playoffs with one team, Mike Tomlin and Marvin Lewis. That's where we're at. That is the uncharted territory besides one other explorer that Tomlin finds himself in company with now. He was incredibly effective and successful as a quarterback, as a coach in his mid-30s with 2 Super Bowl appearances and the youngest coach to win a Super Bowl ever. Lately, he has made Mike McCarthy's success and record in Dallas look very good and great. One of your least favorite coaches. So the owner came out and said urgency. We've got to start winning playoff games. That doesn't apply to Mike Tomlin, who now reportedly is the 2nd highest paid coach in the NFL behind Andy Reid. And we did not even put him in our top 10 NFL coaches when we did our coaches poll a couple of weeks ago on this podcast.
Because I don't think that you would have put him in your top 20. So I had to draft him.
I had him top 15. I had him 14.
You had him 14. Okay. Your case on Tomlin is objectively strong. You also just focus on a playoff record, which is admittedly a small sample size, when the thing that everybody else focuses on for him is the whole sample of full seasons and never having a losing record. And never having a losing record with not Brady or Mahomes or quarterback play of that caliber. Like those years, dude, I know you love Ben.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I understand that, but
so he did not have Mahomes or Brady. He inherited literally the next best thing.
Hold on a second. I watched seasons that Roethlisberger played where he was bad, and you defended him as good, but he was bad. And I watched last year where it was Mason Rudolph and Mitch Trubisky, and he didn't have a losing record. So I'm not talking about I'm not talking about the whole thing for Ben. Ben, of course, is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I, of course, agree with that. But we have seen other coaches that have had quarterbacks of that level have losing seasons when they don't have Tom Brady or they don't have Patrick Mahomes. So the floor with Mike Tomlin is incredibly high. There is no world that they were ever going to not give him that contract extension. Like, you're the only one who's surprised by it.
I'm not surprised by the fact that they gave it to him. I'm just pissed off that they did, because I know the way the Rooneys operate. They value coaches more than any team in professional sports. As far as and this comes up all the time, he went 10-7, and you bring up Trubisky and Rudolph. Why did he have to play those guys? because the quarterback that he picked in the first round didn't pan out, and he punted on him after 2 years. Okay.
Dude, listen, I'm not the Matt Canada thing, the Kenny Pickett thing, the coordinator hires. I'm with you on it. I'm just saying, even with mismanagement and mistakes, you don't have 5-12 seasons.
Yeah, but guess what? 5-12 seasons get you guys like CJ Stroud.
Okay,
6-10 got you Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay, well, that's a different argument. So
no, but I'm just saying, like,
you're saying you want to fire Tomlin so you could be worse, so that you could draft.
No, but I'm just saying there's no value in having a coach that always has you in the middle, and that's where they're at as an organization.
What? But okay, if Russell Wilson played like a top 10 quarterback this year, what do you think they would be?
They'd probably be 11-6, and they'd possibly advance to the divisional round, and maybe best case scenario, the AFC Championship game.
Okay. I mean,
I'd sign up for that, no doubt. Like, if that happens, then what I'm saying about Tomlin, I will take it back, and I will be ready to compliment the guy and give him praise if that situation happens. All I'm saying is, in his 17 years as head coach, there is absolutely nothing on his record that says he is good at either evaluating quarterbacks or managing quarterbacks. He picked Kenny Pickett, and then the last 2 years, when they played guys and who they played was objectively horrible.
I'm with you.
So
I'm with you. I agree. I agree with that. I just think
if he has a problem with the most important position in sports, or maybe problem's harsh, if we're unsure, unclear on how he handles the most important position in sports, then why do we just say that he's a great coach? Because of what he did in 2008 and 2010, and because he can go 8-8 some years when other coaches would go 6-10.
Listen, I had him 9th. You know, like I think that he is a good leader with a high floor who, if given a good quarterback, wins. He doesn't have much impact on finding the good quarterback.
If you gave me 2 options for the next 10 years, I can either have Ben Johnson as my head coach or Mike Tomlin. I'm taking Ben Johnson. And
So
guess
am I.
what? Thank you. And I think when people say things like, if Tomlin got fired, he would get hired 5 seconds later, fine. But there are a lot of people who think like you and me, who would rather have Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick or someone like that as their head coach.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I think that Kenny Pickett would have been better off if Ben Johnson would have been coaching him than Mike Tomlin would have been coaching him. I agree with that completely. All right, NFC, we'll stay with NFC East now, because that was my story for there was contracts related. Do you believe that any of these Cowboys contracts are going to be a distraction or an issue in terms of wins and losses? Because I think the one that you could make the argument for is actually Mike McCarthy, not Dak Prescott or CeeDee Lamb.
Well, would you like to do that? And then I can try to poke holes in it, or just put you on a pedestal and say that was flawlessly argued. Congratulations on all your success.
Sure. No, that's fine. Like, Dak Prescott has more leverage than any player in the NFL. He's already been paid. He will be paid again, whether it's by Dallas or Pittsburgh or New York or Vegas or someone else. Like, Dak Prescott will be paid. He has no risk. If Kirk Cousins can get $180 million coming off of an Achilles, Dak Prescott will get paid. CeeDee Lamb, he will get paid. If Christian Kirk could get the money that he got, and Jerry Jeudy can get the money that he got, if he's healthy and they throw 600 times and he gets 150 targets again, he'll have huge numbers. He'll get paid massively. If he has a slightly down year, he'll still get paid a massive amount of money because of what the receiver market is. Those guys aren't incentivized to play well. It's not going to bother them once the football starts. Mike McCarthy, as a lame duck head coach for the last coach, Jason Garrett, Jerry Jones just let his contract expire. Then he hired McCarthy. That's got to be hanging over his head, because it looks like they're going to just let McCarthy's contract expire. But the coach before that, Wade Phillips, they fired in season. So if he loses 4 of the first 6 games when he plays Pittsburgh and New York on the road on national TV, when he plays Baltimore and Cleveland and Detroit, it's a tough start to the schedule. Start 2-4, go into the bye. You got Mike Zimmer, who's been a head coach, who won a ring as a coordinator in Dallas, who was with the Cowboys for 12 years back in the 90s and early 2000s, has a good relationship with Jerry Jones. Like, to me, it's the McCarthy contract that could be the issue in season in terms of wins and losses and pressure and distraction.
Well, do you buy the Belichick rumor that I started?
Did you start it?
Yes.
All right. Well,
it's
then,
my
yeah,
rumor.
I got to support you on your rumor. Yeah.
My rumor is that Belichick is secretly on retainer and that Jerry Jones is paying Bill Belichick an undisclosed amount of money that we don't know about. And all he is telling him is, here is our playbook. Here is what we're doing. Here is our system. Here is how we're trying to win this year. So you have all the information available to you right now. You are on deck. If we do what you just said, Danny, and start 2-4, McCarthy's out and you're in. Because
that'd be amazing.
There's no Dan Quinn there anymore. So there's no guy that's internally in the on-deck circle like Jason Garrett was for Wade Phillips. And we know that, Jones apparently told Bill Belichick, if I had a head coach opening and you were available, I would hire you in 2 seconds. So that's my thing. I mean, that's my rumor, that I think Belichick is just secretly waiting for McCarthy to fail. And that's why he seems right now to be in a very placid, calm state about his unemployment.
If that's true, fire Mike McCarthy.
I think that Jerry Jones.
Don't let yourself start 2-4 or 3-3 and it'd be a distraction. You have a gajillion dollars.
But here's the advantage to doing it like this. That keeps Belichick out of all of the offseason moves. And he just comes in as coach, and there's no wearing of the GM hat because all of those moves have already been made. He just parachutes in, and you're asking him to coach, and he missed his opportunity to get into the mix of let's draft this guy, let's sign this guy, let's trade for this guy, let's keep these guys out of training camp. Let's, put all of those things are out of his control in this situation. And to go back to your CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott thing, I think you make it a little bit more black and white than it is. I think there is more gray area to it because you're right. Those guys will get paid, but they would get paid now. The issue for them is CeeDee Lamb wants to be the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL.
Not going to happen.
Hold on. And Dak Prescott wants to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And you say not going to happen. If they have great years this year, it will. If they don't, then it might not. So that's the pressure that those guys have on them. Sure, they're going to get paid relative. They're going to make, you're right, they're going to get millions of dollars regardless. But it could be the difference between, I don't know, $55 million a year for Dak and 40. It could be the difference between $35 million a year for CeeDee Lamb and 30. I don't know. I mean, that's what they're playing for. That's why those guys aren't taking the security now of the contracts that have probably been offered to them.
Well, the key word there is probably. We do not know the offers that have or have not been made to those guys. But listen, I think that CeeDee Lamb is very unlikely to top Justin Jefferson. But I think Dak Prescott is very likely to have the highest average annual value per year for any quarterback. But let's keep it moving here.
AFC West is what's come out of Kansas City, and you have Travis Kelce saying he's going to play until the wheels fall off. And then Chris Jones comes out and says on Wednesday, I think Kelce can play for another 5 or 6 years. The Kelce, in his own words, obviously carries more weight. Given what happened last year and the Taylor Swift situation and turning up on SNL and being on probably 25% or a third of the commercials that we saw during NFL games, I did not have Travis Kelce pegged as a guy that was going to basically need to get scraped off the field and play until he was maybe a shell of himself and ride it out to the bitter end. I did not have him circled as one of those guys. And it sounds, and from the looks of things, you don't believe what he's saying. You don't think that this is true.
Correct. I don't believe it. Because it also goes fast, man. Like 34-year-old tight end, we already saw some signs of it slowing. Like, I think like if he has a 500-yard season where he misses 7 games due to injury, including the playoffs, and they lose in the first round and he's injured at the end of the year, like, is he going to want to rehab and come all the way back and all of that? Like, I don't know. Like, I think as long as he's considered a top 1 or 2 tight end in the NFL and being massively productive in huge playoff spots like he was against Baltimore, and then gets to party and do the parade and you fight to your right to party and Saturday Night Live and all the things and act in the show and him and his brother launch a beer and all these things. Like, I think he's having his cake and eating it too right now because he's still awesome, but we haven't had to see him be anything less than awesome. My guess is if football would stop being fun for him relative to how fun the rest of his life is if he ever becomes mediocre or injured. So to me, once he experiences the adversity of age, that's when we have to ask him about retirement.
I have a theory on this one too.
Okay.
I think that he realizes that he has a guy that is going to be in the running for the greatest quarterback of all time, potentially, and someone that is starting to make up ground on the Belichicks and Chuck Knowles and Bill Walsh's for the greatest coach of all time, Vince Lombardi. And I do think we could see a point where they pitch count him in the regular season and they know that they're going to make the playoffs and just need Travis Kelce to be good or great in January and February. And I think that we get to a point maybe 2 or 3 years from now where he's playing in only a handful of NFL regular season games, and they're just having him, they're just trying to gear him up and have him ready for the playoffs, Danny. I really think we have never seen that before. I think that could happen with him.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he has, because you can make the argument for him over Gronk. It's a good debate. He's got the career record for postseason receptions and receiving touchdowns by a tight end in the playoffs. He's got the most 1,000-yard receiving seasons by a tight end. He was on an all-decade team. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. So, the more he compiles accolades like that and adds to those postseason records that he already has, the stronger his case gets. But yeah, my theory is football stops being fun when you're hurt, and especially when you've got the options that he has. I think that's when he ends up slowing down. NFC North.
Did Spencer write this question out, or is
No,
this
I
you?
came up with this one myself. I want you to give me your list of the 1 through 4 rankings of quarterbacks in the division right now and what you think it will be at the end of the season. Because I think this is the toughest division to rank the QBs.
So where it is right now going into the year. Okay, Jared Goff 1, Jordan Love 2, Caleb Williams 3, and J.J. McCarthy 4. And I would say at the end of the year, it will be Jordan Love 1, Jared Goff 2, Caleb Williams 3, J.J. McCarthy 4.
So the only thing that switches is Love and Goff.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think
you have McCarthy 1 at the end of the year. That's interesting. I was not expecting that. That NFL executive you talked to must have really brainwashed you, Danny.
That is not what I was going to say. I think Goff deserves to be 1, but Jordan Love is more talented. Like, Goff is more productive. Love is more talented. Caleb's more talented than all of them. And McCarthy isn't even the starter right now. They're still saying that Sam Darnold is the starter in Minnesota. So I just think it's very in play. Like, I expect it to be Caleb Williams by the end of the year. That's my expectation. But in order for it to go Caleb, Love, Goff, Caleb and Love have to be so good, because if Jared Goff is healthy with Ben Johnson and Decker and Sewell and Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs, his statistical floor is so high. Like, I don't see any scenario where he would throw for like less than 4,200 yards and 30 touchdowns. And that's very difficult to imagine that being the third best quarterback season in the NFL, even if I think my eye test would tell me that Love and Caleb are going to be more talented than them. So I just thought the exercise was interesting to elucidate just how competitive this division is going to be and how good you have to be a great quarterback. Because obviously, like AFC North, you've got a 2-time MVP, you've got Joe Burrow, but the bottom isn't as tough. Like this division is just very, very strong top to bottom.
If Caleb Williams' numbers at the end of the year look something like this: 21 touchdowns, 19 interceptions.
Wow.
Bears go 7-10. Is Matt Eberflus the coach next year?
No.
Okay.
No. Definitely not. I mean, they won 7 games last year, dude. 19 interceptions would be like an Andrew Luck style rookie year.
That's pretty much what I was going for there.
Yeah. He didn't throw a ton of picks in college. He did have a ton of fumbles. I do think that they are saying I don't think that they're going to coach him to be crazy conservative, because they don't want to coach the special and the playmaking ability out of him, but they expect to win. So I do think that they will get the ball to your playmakers. Don't play to be a hero, play to your top 10 defense, that sort of thing. I'd be very surprised if that was how his numbers looked at the end of the year.
One more on this, and then we'll get to the AFC South. If your entire life savings depended on Caleb Williams being better than Mac Jones in his rookie year in 2 out of these 3 categories, more wins, more touchdowns, fewer interceptions, would you feel safe making that bet? So Jones went 10-7. He threw 22 touchdowns and he threw 13 interceptions. So 2 out of 3, more wins, more touchdowns, fewer interceptions. Would you feel comfortable betting your life savings on that?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, because more wins, 11 wins is tough, dude.
Not if you ask your compatriot on First Things First. He seems to be very confident in them winning more than 10. He hasn't been listening to you or consulting you, apparently.
Yeah, I know. Broussard is very smart and talented.
AFC South, Colts are going to be the topic here for me, because we would go on for another 15 minutes if I brought up what CJ Stroud is saying on like podcasts and things of that nature, which is fun. And he's like a content machine.
He really is.
In the offseason with his buddy Micah Parsons. This whole thing where Anthony Richardson needs to keep getting shut down in practice because his shoulder is so sore scares me a lot. And we've discussed on this show what a wild card he is and what a wild card it makes the Colts for this season. That is just something that I didn't want to hear or see this year. And look, there have been plenty of guys whose careers are completely derailed because of an inability to stay healthy or be healthy. And I'm worried that he is one of those players. And they've got Joe Flacco there, who does not even remotely fit what Richardson does. It could not be more of an antithesis quarterback as far as how backups go. This is not like Tyler Huntley backing up Lamar Jackson. It's a guy you can't move, backing up one of the great athletes at quarterbacks in the NFL, which I thought was kind of a weird decision by Indianapolis to have him behind him. But I'm a little bit more gun shy about them than I have been on past episodes of the show because of just the way they seem to be treating him already in June. Danny, I kind of figured that this would be a moot topic.
So I agree. I try to be more even keeled than you. Like,
Is that easy to do?
It is very easy to do. But like, they are months away from playing. It would be crazy to push him now. If this is a story the second week of August, like it's a story the second week of June, I will be right there with you. But if he is 92%, then you shouldn't be doing anything with the guy right now. Like, let him do walkthroughs, let him do the film room, let him do all that stuff. But he's the franchise. You use the 4th pick in the draft on him. He's a crazy athlete. He's recovering from this massive injury. Like, there is no reason to push him right now. So I agreed with you.
I don't think they would push him. It's just scary that even the fact of throwing footballs causes soreness. We've already lived through the Andrew Luck fiasco there, where the Colts would repeatedly make it seem like his injuries were not as severe or serious, were nothing to look at, no big deal. And then, fast forward a year or two later, and he's retiring because of injuries. I mean, he would have mysterious injuries that would cause him to miss, half of seasons. So, yeah, I mean, that's probably where this is coming from with me. Like, there's just a history there of trying to downplay things that are much more serious than they really are.
It's fair. It's on the radar. I'm just not panicking about it yet. I still like them assuming health for him, but that assumption has gotten more difficult to make. Thank you to Spencer Ray. Fantastic work as always. Subscribe, rate, review, listen to the pod, tell a friend. First in Pod. Peace.